Evil Pixel.
The very first Street Fighter is one of the most overlooked games in video game history. Such an awkward thing to be plagued with due to the fact that Street Fighter 2 was one of the most popular fighting games of all time. And frankly, one of the first fighting games to make the genre so mainstream. Now we all know how Capcom likes to treat the Street Fighter franchise, releasing a game every decade or so, but have about 15 iterations of the same game released throughout the years. Now this is true for many of Street Fighter games, along with being ported to several platforms due to its popularity, barring Street Fighter V. But aside from only being available to the arcades and a select few non-popular consoles, the original Street Fighter was to be released for a very popular Nintendo console. And so in today's video, we'll be discussing Street Fighter for the NES. The Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection was released earlier this year with over 12 of Street Fighter's most popular games, including special features for each game, some even with online capabilities. Now one of the games that players could play is the original Street Fighter, which was originally called Fighting Street. One of the first times this game is able to be played in such good quality, other than the crappy ports we got in the Capcom Volume Collection for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. Now another very interesting feature in this collection is the museum mode, which showed off concept arts and different behind the scene tidbits from different games. The man left with this task was video game historian and preservationist Frank Cifaldi. Cifaldi is also credited as being a video game archivist and designer for many obscure games, and I suggest you go visit his site in the description below. Now supposedly, one of his main inspirations for the museum feature was the Sonic Jam collection that was released for the Sega Saturn, and also the Metal Gear Solid 2 interactive documentary where players were able to sift through different bonus features including artwork and other facts. He stated, "It was like picking up a nice art book off my shelf and thumbing through it, but with a controller." Now on the day of Street Fighter 30th Anniversary's release, gamers were gifted with a surprise. Cifaldi sent out a tweet stating, "Now that Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection is out, I'd like to share some of my favorite discoveries and tidbits from the museum section I worked on." Followed by yet another tweet saying, "Here's something I guarantee you've never seen before. Street Fighter 1 on the NES. This screenshot was buried deep in a Capcom marketing archive, undiscovered for decades. The game was cancelled, but this is the first time that the public has ever seen what it looked like." And attached to this tweet is a very interesting 8-bit screenshot taken from what I believe is to be a cell phone. And here is the only known image to exist of Street Fighter for the NES. And frankly, when I saw this, I was completely dumbfounded. This is amazing. We got our first and only look at what Street Fighter would have looked like on our 8-bit consoles. Now let's analyze this image. While it isn't clear, I believe it's fair to say that the two characters shown are Ryu and Sagat, as these two characters are both the main and final boss in the original game. But that is also very vague to say, as in you can barely make them out. Ryu with his white gi just looks like a regular martial artist. However, Sagat does show a bit more of his personal distinct features, with his Muay Thai trunks and his leg propped up in his Muay Thai stance. The background itself seems to be the 8-bit iteration of Sagat's stage based in Thailand, as shown in the original Street Fighter. As you can see, the large set of stairs and the temple in the background seem to be consistent with the original. Now granted, for today's standards, this game looks god-awful. It actually reminds me of Karate Champ for whatever reason. But just the thought that Street Fighter 1 for the NES was at some point a thing is just mind-boggling. Now while there aren't any decent fighting games for the NES, I just feel like this game would have better assisted in establishing the origins of Street Fighter. Mainly because at the time Street Fighter 2 came out, media wasn't what it is today. There was no social media or YouTube, so people were genuinely curious about what happened to Street Fighter 1, including myself. I wasn't familiar with the original Street Fighter 1 arcade, I never saw it anywhere, and I didn't own any of those odd consoles that the game was actually released on. so I had no idea where Street Fighter 1 went. I guess what I'm saying is it's just awesome to see this franchise that I love so much be seen in this way, and I'm actually curious to know more about it. Like, how far did it get? And are there any other characters rendered in this build? Or is there even a playable build somewhere? Now unfortunately, nothing else was revealed. It seems like this is the only thing Cifaldi found. But who knows? Maybe some old school Capcom exec has some kind of information or some type of prototype or artwork or concept laying around somewhere. Hell, maybe Ono knows something about this. He's always trolling people on social media anyways. But either way, I just wanted to share this with you guys because I couldn't believe how cool this was. But that is what we know of Street Fighter 1 for the NES. Thank you guys for watching. Check out some of our other videos if you'd like. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and check out our Patreon, and give us any suggestions for any future videos. And I'll catch you all next time.